Welcome to the Ultimate Sports Podcast. Tonight's guest, somebody that co-hosts the Jets All the Way podcast and writes for Elite Sports New York, Geoff Magliocchetti. How are you doing on this fine evening?
Madison Miller, it's great to be here. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me again.
All right. We'll start with baseball. Nationals, Dodgers. Did you stay up and watch the finish of that game?
I was dozing in and out of it, but I confirmed that I did. I was just as shocked as the rest of the nation. And you know what? It's nice to see some different teams in the NLCS for a change. I'm not going to lie. National Cardinals is going to be a great World Series. Or NLCS, sorry. Whoops.
Yeah, it is going to be a great NLCS. And I think the winner of that series is not going to be an easy out for the winner of the American League pennant. What everybody is talking about is the Dodgers and how they really just flat out blew that game with Kershaw giving out the back-to-back home runs and Dave Roberts making poor decisions with their bullpen usage. What do you think is next for that team as they go into the offseason?
I mean, Los Angeles is in a pretty good spot right now. The NL West is in a state of flux elsewhere because you look at San Francisco, they have a young, exciting farm system, it looks like, but they're going to be going through a bit of a transition with, of course, Bruce Bochy leaving at the end of this year. And, Arizona, I give them credit. They look like a team that was ready to blow it up and, for lack of a better term, start a bit of a rebuild. But then again, they decided they actually had a solid year, so I give them props there. San Diego is San Diego, perpetually rebuilding and stuff paying Manny Machado for the foreseeable future. Things did not work out. We'll see what happens on their managerial front. And you have the Colorado Rockies who didn't really, who did not have a season they wanted. Surprising. I didn't think they were a playoff team, but I did not foresee the 80-plus losses coming on there. And so LA should be fine in the sense that the NL West is winnable for the foreseeable future. And you look at their free agents, no one too scary out there, but this was their opportunity, I feel, because you look at the NL, the Braves, choked as they did in Game 5 and Game 4 for that matter, they're only going to get better. Teams elsewhere in the Central, Chicago still has plenty of pieces left over, even with several heroes from the 2016 World Series about to leave. Including Joe Mann, he's already gone. They're going to be back. Milwaukee's going to be back. And you look at the East, who knows? The Mets could be a manager away from truly making some noise. The Phillies will be back with a vengeance. So, you know what? This was the Dodgers' opportunity to finally get back there. They had all the pieces. They seemed ready to go. And for this team to lose in the NLDS is pretty embarrassing from their standpoint in the sense that, this was their chance, I feel. This was their chance for a World Series. And I have no doubt that they'll be contending for the NL West again this year. And Dave Roberts, he should be sweating a little bit in the managerial spot because this time last year we were talking about how LA seemed to make the World Series in spite of him, made some tough decisions against the Red Sox there. So he should be sweating this one out a little bit because you think with all the talent LA has had over the years that they'd be able to stumble into a World Series championship at least once. Instead, I'm getting a very big early 2010 Texas Rangers vibe, if that makes any sense.
Not a bad comparison because the Rangers lost those back-to-back World Series, and then that next year they lost in the wild card game. They were favored at home against the Orioles. That was the first year of the wild card game. I remember that Rangers team collapsed. They had a big lead in that division that year. Then Oakland came storming back, won that division, and then it was Oakland against the Tigers in the first round, and then Yankees-Orioles. I remember that year very, very well. And Clayton Kershaw is obviously a big story in this, and the Twitter trolls are at it again about how he fails in the playoffs time in and time again. There was somebody that tweeted into the Michael K. show before that said that Clayton Kershaw was not a Hall of Famer because of his poor postseason resume. It's funny with Kershaw because there's been times where he's actually saved the Dodgers, like in the 2016 NLDS against the Nationals, where he came in and got the save for them to advance to the NLCS when they had to play the Cubs. And then there's moments like this where he just blows up and Twitter just mocks the living hell out of him. And I feel really bad for Clayton Kershaw because this is not all his fault. His manager really, really screwed this one up by not letting Kenta Maeda go longer, and just a lot of other things that really Dave Roberts had fingerprints on that did not go the wrong way. What do you think about the whole Clayton Kershaw stuff?
I mean, I couldn't agree with you more on that regard. I think Kershaw is a terrific pitcher, and I've said several times, I've been a bit of a Kershaw in the postseason apologist a little bit, because you look at the games that Kershaw has had in the postseason. Let's go back to 2017, Game 1 of the World Series. He went 7 innings and struck out 11 Astros in what became a 3-1 LA victory. Of course, more focus goes to the later games of the series. For example, in Game 5, he went just 4 2/3 and gave up 6 earned runs in that. But then he came back in Game 7 and actually did pretty well for himself. It was a 5-1 loss, but he came in and actually kept things, relatively stable when things were just going all the straight heck for LA. Remember, Game 7 of that World Series was over at Dodger Stadium, and Houston jumped out to a 5-0 lead, but Kershaw came in, and, of course, the Twitter trolled out in full force. LOL, here comes Kershaw. It's about to be a 10-0 game. But he came in and pitched 4 solid shutout innings in that game. I believe it was Yu Darvish who started for it.
It was Yu Darvish. I mentioned that on my podcast earlier today, that I remember that Darvish started that Game 7 and Kershaw came out of the bullpen. I gave that example, and I gave out the example that I mentioned with the Nationals, him coming in relief in that game as well. But yeah, the Darvish one, everybody talks about Darvish in that game and not Kershaw pitching those scoreless innings in Game 7 of the World Series. Let's switch to the other side of the spectrum real quick. Wait, were you just saying something?
Yeah, I was saying how Kershaw, he kind of reminds me, if I can make a football comparison in this regard, of Tony Romo in a way, in the sense that, these guys have had tremendous performances on an individual basis, but they are best known for their, relative momentary lapses of, judgment and postseason performances. When everyone mentions Romo, everyone talks about the snap, everyone talks about that 0-7 game against the New York Giants in the playoffs. Well, technically it was 0-8, but you know what I mean. And everyone talks about Kershaw's faltering in the playoffs. And again, you look at his game log, there are some absolute gems here. Because let's face it, they didn't lose Game 2 of the series based on his performance alone. He went 6 innings, gave up 3 runs, struck out 4. But let's face it, you should be scoring more than 2 runs on Washington, and they were just shut down by Steven Strasburg in that game. And Game 5 last night proved that Strasburg was human. They then did to him pretty good, and Strasburg would have taken the loss last night if it weren't for the late heroics, sadly. And look at Game 2 last year against the Braves. He went 8 shutout innings. So I think the narrative of Kershaw being a postseason choker, it's relatively overblown. And you look last year too. He went 7 innings, kind of faltered in the end against the Boston Red Sox. They didn't lose that World Series because of Clayton Kershaw. They lost it as a team effort. And let's face it, if not for Clayton Kershaw, LA is not in this position where they've been, a relative Los Angeles power. And, it's a team effort. They win as a team and they lose as a team. But they would not be to the high highs that they've been there since Kershaw has been around. So, overall, to say Kershaw doesn't belong to Cooperstown based on a few, relative lapses in clarity, I think that's ridiculous, personally.
Yes, I agree with you there. And that's an interesting comparison with Tony Romo. Me on Twitter last night compared him to Peyton Manning, although Manning has those 2 Super Bowls, but he's had some of those playoff losses. I remember they blew a big lead against the Patriots in an AFC title game one year when he was with the Colts.
I think once he gets that World Series title, then you could compare him to Manning.
Yeah, that's true, but I compared him to Manning. That was because I never thought of Romo. I immediately thought of Manning because he's had a ton of bad playoff losses in his career, and the Colts are big favorites, or when the Colts have had big leads and they've choked and whatnot. Manning was the first person that came to my mind, not Romo. And let's switch over to the other end of the series, the Nationals. What are the chances you give them to advance against the Cardinals?
Well, you know what? The early lines for the NLCS to come out, and Washington, surprisingly, is the favorite. I think
minus 120.
The Nationals' little Cinderella story right now kind of, hides the fact they had a better record than the Cardinals this year. They had They won 95 games. St. Louis won 93. And I do want to say, I'm very proud of the Nationals this year, for lack of a better term. I think they've done a fantastic job. No one on this earth gave them a chance, with losing Harper and Harper staying in the division by going to Philadelphia. So you went to deal with the Braves and the Phillies. So I give them a ton of credit for rising to the occasion right now. And we forget, this team barely a week ago was 4 outs away from elimination and in the wild card game. And they did a great job coming back there. Juan Soto with that huge hit. And, they've done just a good job, and I can't say enough about them. And I'm eager to see how they match up with this St. Louis team. It's good to see some new blood in there, see what's going on there. St. Louis, they're a team, I'm surprised, again, hasn't, embarked into more of a bit of a, for lack of a better term, a dynasty down there in the Gateway City. They've won 2 World Series titles in this new century. There was that one in 06, I believe, and then there was the one, like we talked about before, against Texas. So I'm interested to see what's next for this series. It's going to be very exciting. In terms of a prediction, I think the Magic does round out here for Washington. This was a nice little, what I like to call a throat-clearing year for the Nationals. It's to say, we're still here, we're still going to compete. You have to worry about us for the foreseeable future. It's a nice little message to Philadelphia. It's a nice little message to the Atlanta Braves, who probably went into the season thinking, oh, now we have control of the NL East for the foreseeable future. It's the 90s all over again, and probably is, considering they lost the NLDS in such heartbreaking fashion. It is the 90s again. So I'm eager to see what the Nationals could do. I do expect them to put up a good fight, but I do think Cardinals in 6. I think the veteran leadership in St. Louis right now is just a little too much for the young Nationals to handle.
I'm going to go Cardinals in 7 as my prediction. I just think that's going to be a fantastic series. I'm all in, and I think every game of that series is must-watch. Let's talk about the Braves for a second. What do you think is next for that team? Obviously, that terrible loss to end their season in, you said heartbreaking fashion. I think it's brutal fashion, the way that they lost like 13-1. Heartbreaking in game number 4, obviously, but the followed up with that dud at home is just not such a good look. And obviously Ronald Acuna, great numbers in the series, but he had the no-no in game 1 where he didn't hustle to second base on what he thought was a home run yet again. So what's your take on the Braves as they go forward?
I mean, I was so high on the Braves this season. The Braves were my, from spring training on, they were my NL representatives in the World Series. My spring training pick was Astros over Braves. I stuck with that now, and let's just say it took all the power in the world not to go through Twitter and get rid of those tweets once they gave up a 10 spot in the first inning. So, and yeah, you call brutal, I call heartbreaking. Can it be both? But looking at their free agent list right now, Josh Donaldson and Dallas Keuchel are going to be free agents this time next year. Tyler Flowers is another one. They really have a decision to make at the catcher spot there, because Brian McCann is retiring, so they should probably be bringing back Flowers. Nick Markakis is also going to be 36, and he might be headed toward retirement. Julio Teheran, another free agent out there, another key free agent that the Braves have to keep their eye on. Now, what's interesting about Atlanta? This year's Braves team kind of reminded me of the 2017 New York Yankees in the sense that they did such a good job, filled with youngsters, filled with veterans who came out to help the cause, and they remind me of the 2017 Yankees in the sense that they were playing with house money. They really had nothing to lose at this point. LA was the odds-on favorite in the NL in the eyes of many, and rightfully so. They were the established power in the National League. But the Braves, they had a chance to knock out LA. I believe they played in mid-September, and the Braves I think they won 3 of 4. I could be wrong. It was either 2 or 3 or 3 or 4, but they won that set with the Dodgers, and that showed me that they could really compete with them. It was in the sense that, the fact that they won the NL East, the fact that they competed with Los Angeles in terms of the standings, that was enough of a win for them on its own. So I'm very hopeful about the Braves' future. Obviously, yesterday did not go their way, but I'm eager to see what's in store for this team moving forward. They have such a good young core. Acuna really has to solve that whole not running out of the box thing. That's the biggest concern. It's going to be the attitude, because they had those 90s Braves. They had the attitude, both good and bad. Sure, they were brash. Sure, they were talkative. But once they stepped on the field, once they stepped on the batter's box, they were all business, and that's what led to their 90s monopoly on the NL East. Did it translate to World Series? Unfortunately for them, no. But maybe this new team can start rewriting that narrative.
Yes, let's see about that. Because I think that division's going to be better next year. Nationals may lose Strasburg and Rendon, but maybe they bring them back. I think the Phillies will be better with the better manager, and I think that that's a team that's going to be spending this offseason. And the Mets are a team, assuming that they don't trade Noah Syndergaard and make some other moves to improve their team, that I think could be better too. And the Marlins are probably still going to finish in last place in that division next year, but those young players there, I think, will take a step forward. And I think they did the right thing in extending Don Mattingly, who I think has gotten that rebuilding team to play hard for him. And let's switch over to the American League side real quick. Give me a pick for Astros-Rays tonight.
I'm going to predict Houston. It's enough of a win for the Rays that they even made it this far. It's like good for the little guy. They put up a great fight. Small budget team. Good young kids. Island of misfit toys when it comes to the veterans. Guys like, G-Man Choi coming there has come up huge in this series. Travis d'Arnaud, he took 16 home runs this season. So eat your heart out, Met fans, unfortunately for them, right? But they've done a great job all season. Mike Zunino's another guy who's come there and done really well. And, I'm happy for the Rays because I feel terrible that they have to play in the cavernous, catwalky Tropicana field because, when Rays fans come out, they came out. And everything went in their favor over these last two games. They've really, have pulled no punches against the Astros. Many saw the Astros right now. They just see this as, quote-unquote, extended spring training for their what's sure to be, if it happens, an epic ALCS against the New York Yankees right now. And that's why I was so pleased to see the Yankees take care of business against Minnesota Twins. There was no lingering. There was no doubt. Now seeds of an upset are planted in Tampa Bay's mind. Granted, I don't think that it's going to happen. I think Garrett Cole is going to come out and have a great game tonight, and I think Houston's going to take it. But to win on their own that they made it this far, going to that wild card game against Oakland, they just dominated that effort from start to finish in a 5-1 win. And I think it's good enough that they made it this far. Unfortunately, I just think Houston is too powerful at this point to handle.
I agree with you. I think it's a low-scoring game. I think the Rays pitching keeps them in the game. And I think that you may see Justin Verlander and or Zach Greinke at the bullpen tonight, which I think would bode well for the Yankees because then those guys are going to be tired the next round. That's why I'm strongly considering taking the Yankees to upset Houston in the next round because the Rays took Houston to 5 and those guys are being overworked. I'm talking about the pitchers, and I'm not sold on that Astros bullpen. That Astros bullpen has not been great in this Rays series, if you ask me. And so it should be very interesting. If you're the Yankees, you want this game to go extra innings, and you want to see Verlander and Greinke both have to pitch. And I think the Rays actually have a chance as long as Glasnow pitches toe-to-toe with Greinke. And if you have to get in that bullpen without, say if the Astros don't use Verlander and Greinke, and they go to like the likes of Ozuna and Harris and a bunch of those guys, Chris Davinsky, Ryan Presley. Those guys, some of those guys have good moments and some of those guys have bad moments. And if the bad version of those guys show up, I could see the Rays putting up some runs against them. So I'm not going to roll out the Rays in this game, but I'm with you. I'm going to take the Houston Astros and Garrett Cole here to advance to take on the New York Yankees in what should be a highly contested series. Couple quick things before we go. NFL so far, couple things. Biggest surprise team so far?
Wow, that's a good question. I think there's been so many surprises in the NFL right now. If you're talking about surprises from an individual standpoint, I just want to say how great so many of the replacement quarterbacks have been because you look at what's going on right now. For example, in Jacksonville, Gardner Minshew has become a national sensation in the league. Look at Indianapolis. Jacoby Brissett has done a great job filling in for Andrew Luck and making the best out of a tough situation. Of course, they picked up a huge win over Kansas City. Elsewhere, Kyle Allen is starting a conversation in Carolina, and they could well be ready to move on from Cam Newton and give him the starting job, considering the run he has been on in recent weeks. So those guys have all deserved a ton of credit. Even in Pittsburgh, Mason Rudolph was not the reason they were losing games. So props to them over there. And in terms of surprises, I do want to give some props to the Detroit Lions. They've done a good job so far, 2-1-1 right now, keeping pace with the Green Bay Packers and the rest of the crazy NFC North, where no one is below 500. I do think Detroit's tie against Arizona is going to come back to haunt them in the end. It's come back to haunt them right now. It's basically keeping them out of a playoff spot. So it will be interesting to see how that pans out. Also, you want to talk about replacement quarterbacks. New Orleans has done a great job. Teddy Bridgewater's come in there. Not the greatest stats, but he's maybe shaken off a little rust. He's improved as the weeks have gone on. Big props to that defense, who picked up a huge win a couple Sunday nights ago against the Dallas Cowboys, a 12-10 victory secured only via field goals. So great job by the Saints in that regard. But I think the biggest surprise thus far has been easily the San Francisco 49ers. I'm still not sure what to think of them at this point. And that was what an effort that was on Monday night against the Cleveland Browns. But the ultimate question is going to be, did that game say more about the Browns, who haven't exactly been world beaters in their new, status as favorite in the AFC North? Everyone said that, Baker Mayfield and Odell Beckham Jr. are going to, take over this league. We haven't seen it. So did that game say more about the 49ers or the Browns? Time will only tell. They have a big game coming up this Sunday. They're going to be playing the Los Angeles Rams at 4 o'clock, and then more big games await them on the schedule. They're going to play Carolina after a sabbatical over to D.C. They'll play the Redskins. They're going to play the Cardinals twice. They're also going to play the Seahawks and the Packers as we get closer to the Thanksgiving holiday. So I'm eager to see what the Niners can do. They've done a fantastic job. Jimmy Garoppolo has really shed the stigma behind the Tom Brady backup deal. It was almost like what people used to do with Green Bay Packers backups when Brett Favre was around. And it worked back then because Matt Hasselbeck and Mark Brunell, they were Favre backups, and the general consensus was, oh, he backed up Favre, so he must be good. Unfortunately, it didn't work out well for guys like, Doug Peterson and Ty Detmer. And that used to be the narrative around Brady backups. And I wasn't a believer in Garoppolo simply because we had seen it so many times before. He backed up Brady, so he must be good. Look at Ryan Mallett, look at Matt Castle, the list goes on. But Garoppolo has done a good job so far. Kind of a bit of a game manager, 920 yards at this point, and, really relying on the efforts of a speedy Matt Breida, 6.5 yards per carry. And look at the other guys in this roster. I mean, Raheem Mostert, he came first on the scene last year. He's averaging 5.8 yards a carry. Tevin Coleman, a nice little acquisition from Atlanta, back from Coach Kyle Shanahan's Atlanta days. He's averaging 5.5 yards per carry. George Kittle, not underrated anymore. Everyone knows his name. And the defense has been, bar none, one of the most fearsome units in this league. So I want to give San Francisco a ton of credit right now. Nick Bosa and DeForest Buckner really pressuring the quarterback early on. Interested to see what lies ahead for them because we've seen so many good starts in this league go to waste. Look what's happened in Buffalo over the past few years. We've seen them get off to great starts time and time again. Can actually believe in them a little bit this year. They built themselves up a nice little cushion. And the Niners have done a great job. I just really hope if anything's going to derail them, it's going to be, silliness and ridiculousness like we saw with Richard Sherman, the whole handshake gate, which, one of the silliest controversies we've seen in sport in quite some time. And that's saying a lot because we feel, as reporters and analysts, Madison, you and I, we see so many ridiculous stories in today's era of social media. So if anything's going to bring it down, it's going to be silly things like that. I'm eager to see what happens with the Niners moving forward at 4-0.
Yeah, me too. They have a big one on Sunday, that's for sure. If you check out my Periscope, I have some thoughts on that game. That's just a spoiler for you in case you didn't see that. Disappointment team so far in the NFL. I have a feeling I know where you're going with this one.
Well, you think I'm going to say the Jets, aren't you?
No, I did not think you were going to say the Jets.
Oh, well, I don't think it's the Jets. I think, losing the quarterback has been Adam Gase's get-out-of-jail-free card so far. So taking a look at the standings right now, I think the team you could say is the biggest disappointment, probably the LA Rams, because, I'm really disappointed in what's been happening. Oh, LA Chargers have been another disappointment, in my opinion, because Chargers as the dark horse in the AFC. I really thought they could give Kansas City a run for their money, but things have really struggled from the get-go out there. Even the return of Melvin Gordon hasn't exactly, been the jumpstart that they need back there. They're 2-3 right now, coming off just a tough loss to the Denver Broncos on Sunday afternoon at 20-13. Their wins have come over against Indianapolis, who of course was still reeling from the Andrew Luck news at the time, and the Miami Dolphins. So can we really count it? They have a big opportunity this week on Sunday night against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Looking forward to seeing that game. Two desperate teams. Pittsburgh, I still don't want to count them out at this point because that AFC North is so weird. Because if Baltimore does not run away with the AFC North at this point, they should be relegated to the Big Ten or even worse, Conference USA, because that is built for them. They can run away with this. If they don't do it, that's a problem. But right now, my biggest disappointment probably the LA Chargers. Did you guess correctly?
I thought you were going to say the team that the 49ers just absolutely destroyed on Monday Night Football, who you just talked about a minute ago, in the Cleveland Browns, because that's obviously my pick.
I thought that would be too obvious,
Yeah, that's my biggest disappointment. And my biggest surprise is the Lions. You talked about them before. I'm just not a fan of that coaching staff. I can't believe that they don't have a regulation loss yet. They should still be undefeated, although you could argue that they should be 1-3. Like, you could go many ways with the Lions. Quickly before we go, give me your thoughts on the WNBA Finals. Who wins the decisive Game 5 tonight, and who wins the series MVP?
Oh, man, I was at Game 4 the other night up at Mohegan Sun, up in Uncasville. That was quite the atmosphere over there. It was a great game, by the way. 90-86 was the final. If you're a basketball fan, you got to tune into tonight's Game 5. It's going to be great. I personally have, at the risk of offending the Connecticut Sun social media account, they've been very vigilant. They even called out some reporters during their post-game presser the other night. At the risk of offending the Sun, I am going to go with the Washington Mystics tonight. Everything about the Mystics seems to scream team of destiny to me, because we haven't seen such dominance on the court since the early heyday of the Houston Comets. Remember, they opened this whole shindig with 4 straight WNBA titles to start off. So the first teams, the first champions, first dynasty, the Houston Comets. The Mystics this year, they set a new WNBA record formerly held by the Comets, in that they broke the record for most wins by at least 15 points. So I think that just betting against the Mystics right now it's almost foolhardy in a sense. They're going back to entertainment and sports arena in D.C. Elena Delle Donne is at the closest she'll get to 100% after suffering back spasms in the early onset of this series. So I really just think it's foolhardy to bet against them right now. It's going to be a great game. It's going to be a close game. But I think at the end, I'm going to say Mystics take this one 78-71. Elena Delle Donne is going to win the MVP. But at this point, I think that would be a bit of a legacy award right now, because Elena Delle Donne, and there's a few players like this in the WNBA. Tina Charles is another one right now. They've accomplished almost everything there is to accomplish on the basketball level, except a professional WNBA title. They've won titles internationally. They've won gold medals as members of the United States basketball team. Delle Donne hasn't really. I don't believe Delle Donne has won a professional title on the overseas level. She stays home during the off season and stays with her family, takes care of her sister Lizzie. She does a fantastic job with that. There's a great real sports segment with Brian Gumbel on HBO. It's very good. Definitely recommend it. But it's going to be a bit of a legacy award for she wins, because Washington succeeds when everyone clicks on a team level. Take a look at Emma Meesman, for example. She missed the entire 2018 campaign last year, which of course ended with the Mystics going. I keep calling them the Nationals. I'm sorry, but when they went to the WNBA Finals last year, they were swept by the Seattle Storm. Delle Donne dealt with another injury there, and Meesman back in the lineup. She has been the sharpshooter this team needs. When Meesman scores at least 20 points, Washington is 4-1 this postseason. So I'm interested to see what happens. She has sloppy first half, very uncharacteristic in Game 4 the other night. Then went on to score 12 points in the second half as Washington erased
an 18-point deficit and even took the lead in the fourth quarter before eventually falling 90-86. The outside shooting of Courtney Williams and Shekinna Strickland, just a little too much for them. So, interested to see what happens tonight. And Ariel Powers is another one, mostly known as a defensive specialist, but she drained some big threes in the first half that kept the game respectable for Washington. Christy Tolliver, she's a great basketball mind. Once this game ends, she's not leaving basketball. She's going to go right over to the Washington Wizards bench as an assistant coach. So, it's going to be really interesting to see tonight. I just think Washington is a team of destiny, and I think it's just foolhardy to bet against this squad right now, especially if they play on such a high team level.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to give you credit. I believe you picked the Mystics to win the WNBA title before the season when I had you on my podcast for the first time. Asked you for your title pick. I think you did take the Mystics, and I took Elena Delle Donne to win the season MVP award, which I was correct about that, but I just didn't think that the Mystics would be playing for a championship. I forget who I had to win the title. I think I picked the Mercury because I thought that Griner
It was a Western team. It was either them or LA.
I did not pick LA. I did not pick LA. I did not pick LA. I would never pick Derek Fisher. Although I did pick them to beat the Sun in the conference final because I just felt like they were on a nice little run there. So that's why I took them, and I kind of underestimated the Sun. Although Courtney Williams has had a nice breakout in the playoffs as like a coming out party, really has helped out Alyssa Thomas and Jaquel Jones in that little offensive core that they have going. And guess what? The spread tonight, 6.5. I think the Sun covered tonight. Although I'm with you, the Mystics will win. I just think it's very competitive tonight. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be a great game, undoubtedly. And again, with the Sun, I feel like I've been saying this a lot. It's enough of a win that they're here right now. Obviously, they're not going to accept that, but I think the Sun, a lot of people underestimated them coming into this season because they're not a team that has, the traditional sense of a superstar, though Jaquel Jones really looked like an MVP candidate, and then Washington went into their building and then just destroyed them by 43. I think the final was like 102-59 or 104-59, something like that. And she had a good campaign going and established herself as a star. Courtney Williams is doing the same thing right now. And Connecticut also lost one of the faces of their franchise in Shanae Ogumike, trading her to Los Angeles. So, I think a lot of people doubted the Sun this year, but, they did a great job. They were fantastic at home this year. They end the campaign 16-3 at home right now. So, it's going to be interesting to see what happens at Washington tonight. It's enough of a win that the Sun are here, but they're not going to accept that, and I think they're going to show that tonight. It's going to be a competitive game, but I think destiny reigns in the form of the Mystics tonight.
Yes, and I think you said that the Mystics would win 78-71, which would mean the Mystics would cover by 1 point because the line is 6.5. It was at 7.5. It went down a point to 6.5. I think the Sun covered, but the Mystics win the game on the court tonight. What were you going?
I'm affording myself some insurance with the whole with late free throws. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. All right, it was good to have you on today. Maybe I'll have you on some point in the winter. Maybe we'll talk about hockey more. Football will be still going. Baseball off season would be underway. And go Yankees!
Yes, go Yankees. Can't wait for ALCS. Madison, thanks for having me on. You do a great job. Can't wait to do it again. Keep up the great work.
Thank you very much.